Welcome to A Slob Comes Clean, the podcast. I am Dana K. White. I blog over at aslobcomesclean.com. I also am the author of several books, including the new one coming out in less than 2 weeks, Organizing for the Rest of Us. I share the truth about cleaning and organizing strategies that actually work in real life for real people, people who don't love or even like cleaning and organizing. Thanks for joining me today. This is podcast number 318. I'm calling it Setting Goals When You've Always Failed at Setting Goals. This is the time of year when it is natural to start thinking, okay, things are, it's a new year, fresh start. I'm going to do some things differently. But, when you've been around almost 48 years, like me, y'all, I've been calling myself 48 for a very long time, and I'm actually about to turn 48. So do not let me start calling myself 49, okay? But I'm going to take a lot of the things that I have learned about how to make real, actual, lasting changes in a home, in my home particularly, and apply them to this natural energy that comes at this time of year. Before I do, I want to make sure that you know my new book, Organizing for the Rest of Us, 100 Strategies to Keep Any House Under Control. I think that's what the subtitle is, but it's the basics. It comes out in less than 2 weeks. So if you would like to grab your pre-order bonus, the pre-order bonus I am super duper proud of. It is a printable decluttering flowchart that you can print. If you have a color printer, it's pretty. If you have a black and white printer, it's perfectly fine. You can also just, pull it up as the PDF on your phone or your tablet or whatever and carry it around with you to stay on track while you're decluttering, just to help you work through the process, my decluttering process. So the book itself has pictures. It has my strategies that are all proven and tested in my home and in so many of your homes as well. But it has pictures. My other books didn't have pictures. So this is a cute little flip-throughable book, okay? As opposed to the read all 60,000 words to get it into your head, which I'm a word person, okay? I like the words, but I also know there's a lot of value in a flip-throughable book, okay? So that is what that is, and I hope you will go ahead and pre-order it. Go to, just pre-order it wherever, any format, audio. I do think the paperback, or not the paperback, the hardcover is the biggest value because of the pictures and because of the flip through ability. However, any format that you order, you can get the pre-order bonuses. Okay. So order it wherever, and then go to aslobcomesclean.com/pre-order. And that has the pre-order form on there, and you'll fill it out with your pre-order information. That is the only way to get the bonuses. Like, I have no way of knowing that you bought the book unless you fill out the pre-order form at aslobcomesclean.com/pre-order. Got that? Okay. So don't order it from walmart.com and then call Walmart and say, where's my pre-order bonuses? They're going to be like, you're crazy. What in the world are you talking about? You have to get the pre-order bonuses by going to aslobcomesclean.com/pre-order. Okay. All right. So let's talk about goals. Okay. And what works and what doesn't. This is a time of year where my content tends to do really well. One of the reasons that I wanted to get the book out January 11th, but it's because when you start thinking about, okay, what am I going to do differently this year? What are some things I really want to change this year? It is very natural to think, I want to change how my home functions. I want to be organized, so we're going to talk about that. Here's one of the issues. Is the goal ambiguous? Okay. And sometimes you might be saying something like, no, it's not ambiguous, but really, really analyze and think about, okay? Because the most common goal, what mine used to always be, was I'm going to get organized. My goal is to get organized. But that was, honestly, I look back and I go, that was kind of an ambiguous goal. Like, what does that mean? Like, what exactly does it mean? Because you would say, well, it means a place for everything and everything in its place, except that phrase felt like nails on a chalkboard to me. And I was like, but that's not possible. That's never worked. And that phrase is too simple. I always talk about that phrase and how it drives me crazy. But, this goal to get my house organized, I had to accept that for me, that was an ambiguous goal. Okay. So instead, I have switched in my mind, the way that I look at it, kind of like the strategies, in the subtitle of the book, of the new book, 100 strategies to keep any house under control. I have switched to under control instead of get organized. Okay. Partly because it felt ambiguous because of all my times that I had failed before. Okay. Now, is an organized house under control? Yes. But getting organized had not worked for me. I feel like I'm not making sense here. I hope I am. Anyway, but when I just said, okay, I'm going to get my house under control this year, you can do that without buying a bunch of bins. You can get your house under control without designing a new closet system. Okay? You can get your house under control without building on a new section of your house to be a walk-in pantry in the kitchen. I mean, like, this is just reality. Okay? And in fact, what I have learned over the years is that the only way I ended up getting my house under control was by not focusing on building a new house, building a new section to the house that was going to solve all my problems, by not trying to design the perfect closet. Okay? That focusing on those things had gotten me nowhere. My house was still consistently always out of control. But when I just kind of broke it down to my goal is to get my house under control, that was when I started to see the value of just decluttering. Now, the real way I started to see the value of just decluttering was by just decluttering. Like I said, you know what? I don't even have it in me to try to get organized. I'm just going to declutter. Whew, wow. I have really sunk so far that I can't even think about getting organized. I'm just going to declutter. And as I started to get stuff out of my house, I started to realize the reason that my house had been out of control was that I had more stuff than I could possibly handle. I started to realize that by getting rid of all the excess stuff, I was able to find the things I needed, get to the things that I needed, and easily put back the things that I used. Okay. That's pretty much what it means to be under control, right? And so look at where your goal is kind of this big and lofty and therefore ambiguous thing. And let's just get down to what is it that you really want? Okay. Do you want to be able to find the fingernail clippers? Is that what you want? Okay, then where's the first place where you would look for fingernail clippers? Not where should they go, not where did grandma put hers, but where's the first place where you would look for fingernail clippers? And what makes it so hard to find them in there? Is it because there's just huge amounts of stuff in there? So declutter, get rid of stuff so that when you open that drawer or whatever, you see and you can get to the fingernail clippers. Because that's it being under control. Instead of looking at what's the best storage system for fingernail clippers. I don't know. Another thing on that too is, do you have, is it too lofty of a goal? Is it unrealistic? Do you have an ED on the end of whatever your goal is? And we're specifically talking about goals with your home. Okay. Meaning, are you saying my goal is to get my house decluttered or organized? Okay. Is this something that's too lofty? It's possible. I hear that there are people who don't really struggle that much, but still listen to this podcast. And I'm so thankful that you're here. But for a lot of us, like, I need to get organized. I need to get my house organized. I need to get my house decluttered, and the reality is this something that you can do in 1 year, And I have decided and I have realized that it is an ongoing process for the rest of my life. Like, partly because just the natural reality of, life here. We just had Christmas And if you celebrate Christmas, there is a decent chance that you brought stuff into your house, new stuff into your house, which means that even if you did have your house completely decluttered with an ED on the end last year, you've got new stuff in there, and there's stuff that needs to leave now in order to, not have more stuff than you can handle or keep in your home. Okay. So there's the natural stuff. And then there's also the thing that's, unique to me and people like me. And that is we collect clutter a whole lot more easily than other people do. Like it just kind of ends up happening. It just random things either don't get thrown away immediately when they should, or just kind of get collected and gathered and blah, blah, blah. And wait, how did this happen? It is an ongoing process. And actually for me, it was probably one of the most helpful realizations I had when I realized that I needed to accept that I was never going to be done decluttering. Like when I let go of the get my house decluttered or organized thing, when I let go of this idea that I was going to finish decluttering one day and never have to think about it again, when I stopped seeing it as a project and started seeing it as just something that I have to do, it's like it just took the dauntingness away and instead made me go, okay, well, I need to declutter. Well, I can do that today. Can I get to the point where my whole house is decluttered today? Oh, no. No. It's too much for that. But if my goal is just to declutter, well, I can do some of that today. It's a mindset shift. I know. It got it to where there's value in doing something if I know that my goal is to declutter. But if the goal is too daunting, like the idea that I could ever actually be finished or whatever, then that keeps me from actually even starting. Okay. So along with this, when you start to look at it as this is an ongoing process, okay, so what is it that I can do or finish today that is its own small goal, but it will move me toward accomplishing that bigger goal? Okay. So yes, my goal is for my whole house to be decluttered. Yes, it is. But that's not like the short goal. My goal is to have a house that's under control. A house that's under control needs to not have clutter. Okay. So it's like this overall thinking process as opposed to a simple little, I'm going to get my house decluttered. So instead, if my goal is to declutter, as opposed to have a house that's decluttered, my goal is to declutter. Okay. With the goal of having a house that's under control. Okay. So what can I do today that I can actually finish and accomplish and feel like I have really done something? But then that moves me toward my ultimate goal of having a house that's under control. Okay. So what are some things, you know what I'm going to say, right? You can do the dishes. I know, right? That crazy internet lady, me, says that that's the first step to having a house that's under control. It can feel like, why in the world, when I've got time off work, would I do something so mundane as doing the dishes? Except that if your dishes are not done, it's because you haven't understood the importance of doing the dishes and you haven't gotten to where you know to do them before you start focusing on the other stuff. So it is a valid use of your time. Okay. Meaning like if your dishes are not done and you're questioning why you should go do the dishes because that's not a big enough deal, you should be doing something more dramatic with this time off. It means you haven't understood the value of doing the dishes. Because if you've understood the value of doing the dishes, then you're either listening to this while you're doing them, planning on getting started working on your house, or you don't understand that they really just have to be done every single day. Okay. They just do. Just take my word for it. It is a valid use of your time to do the dishes today. And then go ahead and keep working on some other stuff we're talking about, but then go ahead and do them tomorrow. Like I think so many times when we get the big lofty goal of, oh, I want my house organized, but what you really just mean is under control, but you're thinking, get my house organized. I need to completely rearrange the closet. When in reality, the thing that would move you toward getting your house under control way more than a reorganized closet is having the dishes done every single day. And in order to have them done every single day, you need to do them today. You see what I'm saying? So like, what can you do that I can finish today that its own small goal, but it moves me toward the bigger goal, toward the bigger goal of having a house that's under control. Doing the dishes today is part of that. Whatever day you're listening to this, let's say you listen to the same exact podcast. I'm not sure why you would, because it feels pretty rambly, but let's say that you listen to the same exact podcast every day for 15 days. Every day, the thing that you should do to move you toward having a house that's under control is doing the dishes. Okay. What else can you do? Do a 5-minute pickup. Okay. If you were like, no, I was going to spend my day decluttering, it is not going to hurt you to do a 5-minute pickup. In fact, it is going to take you so much farther ultimately toward the actual goal of getting a house that's under control if you will do a 5-minute pickup right now and then start decluttering. If you will do the dishes, do a 5-minute pickup, and then get on your big, deep decluttering, tackling a visible space, blah, blah, blah. Doing that is ultimately going to take you so much farther on this quest to getting your house under control. Okay? Because those daily things are so important, and it's only 5 minutes, y'all. When I say a 5-minute pickup, remember, I'm not trying to trick you. I'm not saying do a 5-minute pickup. Oh, you know that they're actually going to end up spending 45 minutes and get it all perfect. No, I mean like an actual 5-minute pickup. But that is the thing that will really, truly change your house. Okay. Now let's say that your goal is getting your house under control, or let's just say, no, my goal is to declutter this year. Okay. Today, what can you do today that will move you farther in that goal? Declutter your most visible space. I know if y'all have been around at all, if you're not, if you're new here, welcome to my brand of crazy. But if you've been around a while, you know about visible spaces. So the short version of why I emphasize start in the most visible space is that you will see your progress. Seeing your progress will help you appreciate the effort that you have put in. Appreciating that effort and being proud of that and experiencing how much nicer your house feels, how you're able to function in that visible area that you actually see all the time and therefore are probably in and using. Functioning in that visible area more easily is going to inspire you to keep decluttering. Okay. If you start in a random place that nobody ever sees, including you, then you're going to put all that work in and it's going to feel like, well, what was the point of that? Wait, I know, I decluttered. That's right. I need to go back and look at it, but you're not going to be seeing it all the time without even trying to see it. And it's not going to keep you inspired to continue decluttering. Okay. So if you're wanting to declutter, start in the most visible space today. Okay. The day that you're listening to this, the day that you're like, okay, all right, I got to do different this year. I got to do this. Start in your most visible space. That is something you can do today that's going to move you toward your overall goal of getting your house under control. Okay. Because if you declutter a visible space, you're going to see part of your house being more under control. That's just what happens. When a space is decluttered, it is under control, right? Because it doesn't have excess stuff in it. It only has the stuff that needs to be there. So seeing that is going to help you see that you are on track, moving toward your overall goal of having your house under control. If you're like, well, it's not really my goal to declutter my whole house. I am just going to declutter this room. Okay, what can you do right now, today, that you can actually accomplish and will move you toward this goal? Right now, throw away trash. Okay, so like we're just breaking it down. Decluttering the whole house is my goal. I'm going to start in this room, or I'm going to start in this visible space. What's something you can do right now that moves you toward the goal? Not that preps you with big ideas of how it's going to be in the future, but know that like actually do right this second that moves you toward that goal. You can throw away trash. Okay. Grab a black trash bag, start throwing away trash. After you've thrown away trash, that all the trash you can see and get to easily, start saying, okay, what here is easy? What has an established home somewhere else? It's just out of place in this space, and go put those things away. This is my decluttering process. Okay. Is the start with the trash, and that makes the space better. Okay. And it is legitimate decluttering because things have had their final decision acted upon. This is all in that, the short version of it is in the printable that you can get when you pre-order my new book at aslobcomesclean.com/pre-order. Anyway, but throwing away trash is decluttering, and it is something that is, you're not finished with the space, but you're finished with that piece of trash. Does that make sense? Okay. Dealing with easy stuff, asking yourself what has an established home somewhere else in the house, and then taking it there right now. You're not finished decluttering the space, but you're finished with that item. So I'm saying, and each item that you are finished with moves you toward the goal, not just kind of, it's like you're not hovering. I feel like what a lot of traditional organizing advice will tell you is to pull everything out of a space or whatever. It's like you're just kind of hovering in the space. You're not actually accomplishing anything unless you really do get to that end point. Okay. But if you will act on each item, final decision by final decision, then you are actually actively improving that space and not just kind of hovering around it. Okay, next, we're just going to go through the decluttering process super quick and super easy. Pull out the obvious donations. Again, that goes straight into a donatable donate box. And so that space is better off, is a little bit more decluttered. Okay, not like final decluttered, but with each item that you move into its final space, like either the trash bag or its home or the donate box, that item is one thing that is now past tense decluttered. Okay. And that's the thing too. With that, doing it that way means that you don't have to wait until the time that you have to do it right, until you have the time to do the whole project right. Instead, knowing that my goal is just to do small things that will move me toward the goal, then I'm acting on each item one at a time, final decision by final decision. And as I do that, I am doing the right thing, the final thing with each decision. Okay. And that means I don't have to put this huge chunk of time on my calendar, which then I go, wait, I don't actually feel like doing that today, or wow, something else came up, so no, I can't. Instead, you can declutter in any amount of time that you have available. Okay. Here's one of the big problems with goals. So we're talking about something else. One big problem with goals is when your actual goal is that you just want to be a different person. Okay. My goal this year is to not be me anymore. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like that's ultimately a lot of times what we're saying when we make some of these resolutions. I want to be more organized. I want to be better at blah, 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 or whatever. Pay more attention to this, do whatever. When in reality, I actually have made so much more progress in my home by stopping trying to not be me. Like once I accepted the way my brain works, that traditional organizing advice had not worked well for me, and so I needed to find what did work, that was when I started making progress. When I started to go, yeah, it's not that. Because here's the thing. When we look at, we've been talking about my decluttering process and how it lets you declutter in short amounts of time if possible. Sometimes people have a problem with that because they're like, no, I want to pull everything out of a space because that'll force me to not get distracted. Like I want to do it in this way because I want to not be the person who gets distracted. And so I would do stuff like that, before I came up with my decluttering process. That's a no mess method. I would do it like that. And I would be like, no, this time I'm going to be different. This time it's going to be different. I know that the vast majority of times in the past, when I have pulled everything out of a space, it's always ended up making me more frustrated, blah, blah, blah. Of course, I didn't know that this was a method because I hadn't made it up yet. But I just was like, maybe this time will be different. Maybe this time I will be different. I just need to not get distracted. I just need to do things right, whatever. And yet, coming up with my decluttering process, I came up with it when I went, okay, that never works for me. I got to figure out something that does work for me. It works for some people. There are people who can't even step away until it is finished. And then that's exactly how they should be doing things. Do it however works for you. But if you are the person who's like, I know I always end up making little piles and then I get distracted and they morph into one big pile and then I just shove it all back in the space worse than it was before. Blah, blah. I know that, but I think for 2022, I'm just going to be different. I'm just going to not be that person anymore. Instead, follow the no mess decluttering method, the pull out trash first, item by item, then do easy stuff and then do donations and then ask yourself the decluttering questions, act on each item at a time. Do that if it goes with your personality. Like, accept who you are. Say, I am going to make progress in my home this year by accepting who I am and what it is that I need to do, even though I wish that I didn't have to do it this way. Instead of making your goal to be a different person than who you are. Okay. I feel like I've told this story before, but I love this so much. So it's kind of along the lines of the ambiguous stuff and whatever. So I listened to this podcast called #AmWriting, and it's KJ Dell'Antonia and Jess Leahy, and they're writers. They've both written nonfiction, and one of them writes fiction. Anyway, I just talk about writing, like the business of writing and all that kind of stuff. And so I enjoy it. And most years they will do a goals podcast, and they talk about their goals for the year. And KJ especially will, one of the things that she has mentioned several times is she's like, breaking it down into goals that you can actually accomplish, as opposed to what you wish would happen. And I think that's kind of what I was talking about here, right? Okay, like, I wish I wasn't this way. Okay, but that's not a goal. Like, that's not something I can actually accomplish. But throwing away trash, I can accomplish that. So I'm saying, so like, here's an example. She will talk about, you can't make it a goal to get an agent, even though that feels like if you're a writer, okay, you already have an agent, but I do anyway. But you can't, like, that's not an actual achievable goal to say, I'm going to get an agent this year, because ultimately you don't have control over whether you get an agent, right? You don't have control. You can't force someone to be your agent. You have to do whatever it takes to, get an agent. So her point is, don't make that the goal. Instead, make the goal what you can do. So what can you do? Well, I can send out query letters to 5 agents a week. That you can do. You have absolute control over sending out letters to 5 agents, trying to get an agent. Okay. But when you make the goal, get an agent, that's not actually something you can do. Okay. So I want to be a different person. That's not actually something I can do, because you are you. All right. But what can you do? Well, I can do my dishes today, right now, as I'm thinking about it. I can do my dishes again tomorrow. I can listen to Dana's books on audio. I can, like, those are things that you can do, as opposed to what you wish would happen. And these things are going to move you toward what you want to happen. It might be, I'm going to spend 20 minutes a day Googling how to find an agent. I think they actually have a podcast on how to get an agent. Anyway, but I'm going to make a list of 5 agents. That's something you can do today, as opposed to just having this kind of lofty goal that isn't actually achievable. Does that make sense? Okay, so some examples of things that I wish were different about myself. Like, if I just had, I'm going to be a different person. Y'all know it's like my big pet peeve when people are like, oh, well, just don't set things down. Just always take things to their home. And I'm like, you think I have an awareness of the fact that I'm setting things down randomly? Like, I don't have any awareness of that. So just to say I'm going to stop setting things down randomly, well, it would probably be an hour from now, 1 hour of me being like, no, I'm not setting things down randomly. I'm going to be so super conscious. And then life happens, whatever happens. And then I do it again. Okay, well, I failed already at this goal. Instead, what can I do? Well, I can do a 5-minute pickup. I can do a 5-minute pickup, deal with the stuff that has randomly ended up on the kitchen island or the kitchen table or whatever. I can take 5 minutes and take focused time to deal with that. That is something I can do. I can control that. And the beauty is that the more often I do that, the more I do focused 5-minute pickups and realize that I have every single day for the last 30 days, which I've probably done 20 5-minute pickups in those 30 days. We're not going to go for perfection here. But if I've done 20 5-minute pickups over the course of 30 days, and every single time I have moved this specific item from this specific place and had to walk it to its home, it significantly increases the chances or the chance that I'm going to have a moment of consciousness when that thing starts to leave my hand for that space. And I am going to think, wait a minute, I'd rather just go put this up now. Okay. And so it will increase the chances that I will be more conscious of the fact of, that I'm setting something down, which ultimately changes me. But just to say, I don't want to set things down randomly anymore is not actually achievable. But to say, I'm going to do a 5-minute pickup, that's achievable. Okay. It's the same result, the same ultimate goal, but how can you break it down and say, what can I do today that I can actually accomplish during this time where I've got this energy that then moves me toward this overall much more ambiguous goal? Okay. So how can I change that goal to be something that is more realistic? And then how can I do something right now that is something that has to be done as part of that goal, but it breaks it down to something smaller, like doing the dishes, doing a 5-minute pickup, starting in a visible area. Okay. I hope this has made any sense whatsoever. We will see. Okay. All right. Don't forget, you need to go pre-order my book. I'm just saying, you just really need to. Please. I know if you've listened to every single podcast that I've ever put out, if you have read every single blog post, if you have subscribed to my newsletter and opened every single one and read both of my books, there will be some new stuff in there. Okay. But there will be a lot of things that you've heard before. Okay. Or seen before. However, it's the format. That's where the value is. It's in the flip throughable picture format. I know it's still awkward to give someone a gift about cleaning and organizing. And yet, if you're going to do it, this is the book that would be the best one for that. So, because it's cute and it doesn't say a slob on it on the front cover. Anyway, I just want you to go and pre-order it. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's aslobcomesclean.com/pre-order, and you can you'll immediately by email. Okay. Check your spam if you don't see it, but you'll immediately by email get the printable doolally. What is that thing? Oh yeah. The decluttering flowchart, and you will get invited to attend a live Q&A during release week. So, okay. We'll do that, and make sure you go and register, join, take your house back if you can, because it's super fun and people are changing their homes and it's so fun to watch. All right. I will talk to y'all next week.